Welcome to the series of videos on Toon Boom Harmony, and we are going to start with the very basics here. As you have already probably discovered, we're using Toon Boom Harmony, in this case 21.1, that you can launch on your computer, and then the first screen that you're gonna get when that launches is this one. And this screen is for you to either create a new project or a new scene or open an existing one. You already have a scene there that I call practice that I could open. In this case, we're going to create a new one and we are going to create a scene. And the way we're going to do it in class is going to have a scene per activity that we have. So the way we can have it very organized. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just call this scene week 01 for intro, and then I'm going to go make sure that I browse, and I am going to invite you all to go to our location here on campus, our W drive. And on the W drive I have created folders for our class that are the folders that connect to each one of our the sections that we have. We have three sections. You got to be careful you pick the right one. We have section 2, section 3, and section 4. So depending on which class you are in, you got to pick that folder and you're gonna use that folder for the whole semester. I'm gonna go in there, and in that folder right now it's empty, but I'm gonna create a new folder. I'm gonna create a folder under my name. So I'm gonna say Gomez. I'm gonna start with my last name. So I invite you all to use your last name, and then you can use your preferred name for your first name. In there, I'm going to create a folder for this week 1 underscore intro. So we may have, let me correct that. We may have several folders, or we will have several folders, and you may have two for week 1 because there may be another activity that we do with week 1. So you want to have specific folders per project, per file. And of course, when we do assignments or projects, of course, you need to create specific folders for those. So we're going to be very organized with that. So I'm going to open up the file folder. I'm going to select it, and then I'm going to pick the camera size. In this case, we're going to stay within HD 1080 pixels at 24 frames per second. If you wanted another format, you can go and pick a different format there. And if you want to add more, you can actually go and modify or create new ones for you if you can click on that. For now, I'm going to keep it like this. This one comes with a vertical supported field of view, but actually the measurement does not do it. So with that, let's create a project. In my case, it's going to take a little bit because it is, I'm working remotely, so my computer is actually putting folders on files on the server on campus while I'm not on campus right now. So for you, it should be a lot faster. Hopefully, we'll get there in a moment. It says not responding, but that's because the program is just cranking back there. I'm gonna give it a few seconds for it to launch. There it is. Okay. So if you've never opened Toon Boom Harmony, you'll see that it's pretty friendly. Actually, it has a few things that could become a bit complex, but in general, it's pretty friendly. If you have used After Effects, or even has a little bit of a feel like a Premiere with the timeline at the bottom, makes it easier. So we have a timeline at the bottom you can recognize already, and you can see how your timeline, you can just go back and forth between frames. Right now, when we know that we're looking at 24 frames per second, so of course that every little cell of those is one frame, and we have of course the frame range of how long you want your sequence to be. So in this case, for example, I'm putting 110 frames right there, that you can see, you can type in here, or you can do it manually just the way I did it right there. So it's up to you. 24 frames per second. All right, we're going to get into more detail of that a little bit later. So we have here our timeline to be started. Of course, we have our canvas space, and right now I'm working on a Wacom tablet, just like the way you were doing it on campus. So, I'm recording this from my Wacom tablet directly. And of course, I have my window for me to draw. You see that right now I have my brush, so I'm on my drawing one, so I can go and right away start doing good little images for me to have some fun. So it is pretty friendly, pretty good. If I want to zoom in or zoom out on those images, I can just simply click on my two key on my keyboard or one, so I can go very close and draw little details, you know, on that. And then at one, and if you need to move around, you press your space bar on your keyboard, and then you can go and do little extra things to your, and then one to allow you to do the the correct, zoom in and zoom out. So that is our main stage for now. And notice how in this little window we have um, the the 1920 by 1080 format already, so it makes it very easy. There are a couple of extra things that we want to cover here that will give us some extra information. But for now, I'm going to just jump to some of the other elements on our screen, and then we go back to that. So you see that on the right hand side here we have this big window that has options for me to look at. Right now I'm looking on the X sheet, which is in other program like Maya is called the dope sheet. This is based on the way animators used to work in the past on actually sheets or dope sheets were the way of tracking the animation on paper. So animators will keep a note of that. So this is a good way of knowing what's going on. It's pretty much it's a replication of what these cells are. Only that here you can have a little extra information to know what's a key drawing and what is um, a break down drawing, or what is happening between drawing and so on. We'll go back to that later on. We also have another window here for tool properties. So of course, I did a little drawing there, and I can actually go and change my tool. So if I want to do thicker, lines, I can have a lot of fun with that by picking, any type of brush that I want. So it really, really becomes pretty cool. And one of the cool things that this program has is that if you go very close on those lines, um, you see how sharp they are. They are not even these ones. These ones, oh, you can see here, it start breaking the pixels because that's based on a texture. I'll explain more of that in the future. For now, I'm going to just say this is a good way for us to identify tools, and we can also change the thickness of the tool so we can have different sensitivity. This solid brush also, it works with my pressure on my tablet, so I can go and do that. Let me just go to my frame number 2, and then I can just go another run. So I can go small and thick, right? So pretty cool way of doing it. So so if I select this, I can just go on with that, just go delete it there, and then of course select all of this, and then just delete them there. I don't need them for now. I have 2 frames already that I have created. Additionally to that, let me just go and draw here one more time on the line. I have other windows for library, and the library allows me to access other information, other images, and so on and so forth, or my own images. For now, I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to do a lot of that. Also, I have my palette, and you can see that I have just the basic palette that the program comes with, but at the same time, I can go and just add a new palette, and you're going to just say, for example, I'm going to call it brown, and if I double click on it, hopefully it'll tap up. Hold on. sometimes with the keyboard, with the mouse, it's a little bit easier. So here I come here, and that pops up my color window, and here I can look at the way the color is. I can pick a color. um, I can change actually and click on multiples, so you can pick which palette you like better. That palette to me is very annoying. I kind of feel more comfortable using this one, so I have a way to pick in the right tone, or I can go and modify it, maybe a bit darker. So let me try to pick a brownish tone here. Um, all right, and then when I get there, and I can close this one, so I can go here and then start drawing brown lines. And of course, if if I decide to change it, I can go back and change them all to pick, the brown color onto all of them. So pretty cool ways of doing it. Okay, we already saw the X sheet, and I'll explain some more on that. And then we have layer properties that we're going to talk about more in detail as we move forward in terms of animation. So I'm going to, for now, skip that. And we have also other windows here on my screen. They get cut off because my tablet. Let me see if I can just reduce it here and do it this way. So then it just pops up like that. Hopefully you're seeing this. I can click here and see, other types of windows that we can look at that you can add to this thing. I'm just gonna go back and put this back up here. You can grab all those windows and put them, detach them or put them back there. Hopefully, it'll let you put it back there. Let's see if I can do it with the mouse. If you yes, for some reason it's not doing it because I'm working on my tablet, so it's a little bit a bit odd for it to. Normally, when you drop it somewhere else, you can add or put it whatever you want, but it's not letting me do it. But I'm just gonna just close this one for now, and I can call it back here. You can also always call it back here, like layer properties. Just now staying out, but I'll figure out in a little while how to add it to my window here. Okay, so for now, let me just close it, and I'm back with my pen here. I'm gonna get rid of these guys. Now, it's important that if you say that you have a drawing in my brush, and let's say I do my character here. Let's pretend I have a basic character that I'm animating, a version of it that maybe he is starting to move. I'm not really paying attention to tracking, but let's say he just grew his belly, but it's fine. And I save my file. Um, that takes a little bit because it's reading from the network. But while it's doing that, there is. I'm gonna bring up my folder, and I'm on the W drive there on my 2350 folder. You can see that my week intro file is right there, and you can see that my week one intro X stage is my Harmony file, and it creates a bunch of folders that it depends on whatever you create palettes, jobs or frames, elements. If I go under elements under drawing, you start discovering that, for example, drawing was my element for this layer, and inside of that you see each one of them is the frame that I just did. So if you get to lose this, you delete these files or these folders by any reason, you lose your content. So you gotta be careful with that. So you don't want to be modifying anything there, but you just be aware that this file needs all of that. So when